Welcome back to Lamb's Cryptoverse. I'm here with Waleed, and we haven't spoken to you in at least a week. Hello, everyone. And I've got a lot to talk to you about. He wants to talk to you a lot about Solana. This guy loves Solana. I like it too, but I guess I'm not a Solana maxi. Are you a Solana maxi?
I don't even know if that's a term people use, but okay, I'll be one. Happy to be
I,
one.
I, I it wasn't a term, but now people are maxis with Solana. That's all they talk about. They used to talk about Ethereum, then he spoke about Solana, and now they're talking about Sui. That Sui is the next killer
Next, yeah.
app, killer blockchain versus Solana. But let's see what happens. But let me go to talk to you about what happened in the last week or two. And remember, this is not financial advice, NFA. The first thing I want to talk to you about is Happy Bitcoin Day, everyone. I'm sorry, Happy Bitcoin Pizza Day. Do you know? I think it was 10 years ago, maybe it was longer. No, 10 years ago, a pizza was bought with 10,000 Bitcoin. And Bitcoin hit a new high this week, by the way. So if you calculate how much they paid for that pizza, it was very expensive pizza. I think Bitcoin's trading at what right now? Do you know?
I
Is it
think it's
110,000,
under,
111?
it was 111 something. I think it's under 109 maybe. I think Trump had a bit of announcement recently that kind of did tank the market. So I think like 108, 109, we can double check.
Okay,
But
let's
yeah,
just
it's
say
under.
let's say 109. You take
Yeah.
10,000 Bitcoin times 109,000. Do you know how much that pizza cost? I think it was two pies. It wasn't one, it was two. Those two pizzas cost 10,000 times 109. I think it's over $10 billion, some crazy amount, $10 billion or 10.9 billion dollars. Is that, yeah, $10.9 billion. You could go over my math, but it's a huge amount of money. I don't know
I
what
would,
that pizza guy, what was that?
I would, I would say that the person can, if he had that much Bitcoin still in his wallet, can probably buy Papa John's or the actual franchise with that much
You could
money,
buy the
plus a
whole
bit more.
company.
The whole
That's
company, yeah. He just
That's pretty scary. You know what's even worse? When you know what's really depressing? I bet you he sold everything and he has nothing. He has no Bitcoin. That's what people usually do. I hear these stories of people, uh, buying Bitcoin at $1 and making lots of money at $3 and getting rid of it at $3, and then they have no more. Let me go over the rest of the news. There's more crazy news. Um, I didn't have it on my list here, but because it happened last week, but I really want to talk about it. This crazy kid made a meme coin. He killed himself on a video. He committed suicide. But then news reporters from the San Francisco Chronicle, they found him living at his parents' house. So it was all a scandal. It was a big scandal. So that was, to me, that is crazy. And speaking of potential scandals of corruption, Trump just has this, what I call his pay for play meeting. People spent $150 million last night to sit down with Donald Trump. So they bought his meme coin and they sat down with Donald Trump. And in some bad news, Moody's downgraded the United States credit rating from, I think it was A, like a triple A rating, triple A one, whatever it was, down to double A one. So it's like a double A plus. So that means that all three credit rating agencies have a lower credit rating for the United States. And because of that, the 30-year yield has not been doing well. It's supposed to go down. The treasury market's supposed to do well. The treasury market's supposed to go up when the stock market goes down, meaning yields are supposed to go down, and instead yields are going up when the stock market goes down because of worries of the U.S. credibility and the U.S. credit rating. So what central banks are doing, including China, China used to be one of the biggest purchasers of U.S. treasuries. And what central banks, including China and other ones, are doing, they're buying gold. So gold's going up 1% a day. And gold just hit a new high as we speak. It's like 3,000, it's pushing on $3,400 an ounce. Why? Because companies and people and central banks are worried about the credit risk of the United States. Let's see if I covered everything for the week. And liquidity update is that M2 money supply is still growing 6%. I don't think that's enough for altcoin season. Waleed, do you think there's a altcoin season occurring? Because altcoins are doing really well. Over the last 2 weeks, we saw altcoins go up, especially Solana and Ethereum and even Sui until its recent hack. So do you think we're in altcoin season?
Hmm. That's a good question. So when it comes to altcoin seasons, though, people might not have the same definition to explain what is an altcoin season. Commonly speaking, you can have maybe saying that Bitcoin dominance is close to 50% or below. So that's one check mark. And second check mark would be the top 100 crypto protocols, projects, we call them, excluding stablecoins and Bitcoin, are performing Bitcoin for maybe a few months. So it's more of a time frame thing. I don't see both of them happening as of yet. Maybe altcoin season, each cycle also changes, but there are some big players, maybe some good price in AI is coming a bit back up with sentiment and price action. You have some layer ones doing well. So overall, not the whole 100 projects, probably not. And this might mean maybe each cycle we have a change in evolution, what we actually consider an altcoin season. So it'd be very interesting to see what people have to say. Like I personally don't think we're there yet because Bitcoin is still pretty strong, going dominant, though all focus in media news, everything's towards Bitcoin. And another thing which is kind of interesting is previous cycles you could have Bitcoin. If people made good money in Bitcoin, went up their size, they would rotate into other projects though. Now
Yep.
with all of this ETF buying, Michael Saylor just holding it into like a bag and never letting go,
Yeah.
those kind of projects though, how do you see that money flowing from those platforms to altcoin? Because I don't think you can move ETF holdings to these things. So I feel like things are a bit more different. Would be interested to see how it does pan out though. So maybe altcoin season would have a different meaning than the cycle though.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later because we have a lot to talk about. But I agree with you. I do not think we're in altcoin season, and there's a few reasons. One reason is liquidity is not growing quickly. Everyone on crypto Twitter is talking about that Bitcoin is moving up with liquidity, so and Ethereum and all that. But the growth in liquidity to me is not sufficient to support an altcoin season. So let me talk about this week in the news. There's a lot, so I'm going to talk really fast. If you thought I spoke fast before, I'm going to talk even faster. Coinbase is in the news for three reasons. I'm only mentioning one or two. It joined the S&P 500. There's been an SEC investigation that they misstated the number of users that they have. And also, there was a huge phishing attack in Coinbase where people's a lot of users' IDs and passwords, not passwords, but IDs and the last four digits of their government ID, like social security numbers, were stolen. Other things in the news are that the IPO market is opening up, not just for equities, but for crypto equities. And this includes eToro. eToro went public at a $5 billion valuation, and some other non-crypto companies went public, but there's a crypto company wants to go public. It's called Circle, but there's rumors that Ripple wants to buy Circle, and there's rumors that Circle is going to be a very expensive company, maybe as much as $5 billion or more. And lastly, there's two bills that are in Congress. There's the Genius bill and the Stable bill, both of them for stable coins. And I like to combine them and call them the Stable Genius bill. Stable Genius, you get it? And none of them have passed yet, but I think it's just a matter of time before they pass. And my prediction to everybody is if the stablecoin bills or one of them passes, I think that stablecoins are going to be a top 10 holder of US treasuries within a few years. It's going to be that fast. Right now, we have $233 billion in stablecoins, and 99% of those are backed by US treasuries or something similar to that. And I think that's going to grow to like $1 billion like that. So I'm sorry, not a billion. Is it a trillion? Now I'm getting mixed up with my numbers. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
$1 trillion.
I think you also have some of these banks. I think JP Morgan, other guys also
Yes.
combining efforts to maybe make their own stablecoin, something like that.
Yeah, I
Rather,
don't like that. There's a lot to talk about there. There's a lot of centralization and
yeah, that
decentralization.
that sounds
Decentralization.
like. I mean, sorry, that sounds like CBDC 2.0. a different shape and
Yes,
form.
it sounds like a privatized CBDC coming from companies. So it's decentralized because there's a lot of different stable coins, but that's not really the definition of decentralization. But it's centralized because it's big, powerful companies that basically control the world, like JP Morgan. They want to make their own, but these banks want to create their own stable coins. So for the interest of time, I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to continue with the Waleed hour. I guess Waleed, it's not an
I haven't
hour
heard.
anymore. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin again. You mentioned that dominance is still pretty high, and you're correct. It hit a high of around 64.5%. We're down to 63%. You do not get altcoin season when Bitcoin dominance is that high. It's usually trending lower at a rapid pace. And in terms of Bitcoin news, New Hampshire was the first state to pass a Bitcoin reserve, and Texas this week just passed. They're having their own whatever strategic Bitcoin reserve. But enough about Bitcoin. Today's topic is Solana. I've got a list of a million things to talk about overall about Solana. Maybe we'll do that another day. I'm not sure. There's so much to talk about. But Solana, let me just give you a background. Solana was called the Ethereum killer. And it turns out Solana itself almost died. In November of 2022, actually it started in May. Terra Luna went down in May of 2022, and then 3 Hours Capital, and then FTX in November 2022. And this domino effect really hurt Solana. I don't need to talk to you about that. Solana almost died. But because it has a very strong user and developer base, they were able to come back from the dead. And now Solana is the number one Ethereum killer. So Solana is really doing well. It's trying to make a triangle here.
The
It's
trilemma.
doing pretty well on Vitalik Buterin's big what's it called? Crypto blockchain trilemma. It's scalable. Let's see if I can remember this. It's scalable. It's somewhat decentralized, and it's secure. And when I said scalable, I didn't just mean fast. It's fast as it scales up and grows larger. So you wanted to talk to us about the NASDAQ or how Solana is like the NASDAQ or all the new stuff and announcements that went on with Accelerate. That's the Solana conference that just went on this week. So let's talk about it. Tell me a little about Solana.
Sure, thank you. So I did have I feel like they're still having the last day of Accelerate in New York, though. 23rd May is the last day. I'm sure there's still some
Today might be the last day. You're right.
last day, and there were a lot of announcements. Wasn't there in person, just saw a little bit here and there. But I'll try to focus more on the, you could say, NASDAQ or tokenized equity side of things, or developments there for Solana, though. Because Solana, if some people try to give a few words to a blockchain, for example, if you talk about Bitcoin, people call it decentralized money, peer-to-peer money. Maybe that's a few words to maybe encompass that chain. Take Ethereum, you can call it the world computer. Solana wanted to be the NASDAQ, or at least bring NASDAQ on chain. That's kind of their vision, and they've been sticking to that for a few years, though.
Yes.
And a lot of things that they have focuses. So I'll try to focus a bit about this. I'll have to share my screen. That's okay.
And as you share your screen, I just want to tell our audience that I remember Solana when they first came out. They advertised themselves, and the narrative was it was like kind of like the Nasdaq. But then they moved away from that, and they became the playground for NFTs and meme coins. So now you're telling me they're going back to the Nasdaq, right, as a narrative?
I would say so. If you check, Solana is still in mainnet beta or beta.
Beta, yeah.
And beta. So I feel like one of the things that would, again, it's more perspective, I don't know all the facts though, is they want to bring the stock markets on chain. I think the closer
Yes.
they get to that, they'll probably come out of the better side of things. It's been more than a year, I think. Solana has gone down as a chain. Something we also criticized for, like it's been breaking and so on. So it's been like
Well,
a
it used
good
to break a lot a few years ago, a lot,
exactly.
every like month. Yeah.
So I think they've had their anniversary of 1 year plus. Nothing's been broken or halted or stalled.
That's a big
So
deal.
yeah, that's a
Congratulations.
big deal. So yeah, so when these things happen, that's when bigger players start taking the chain more seriously. So are we getting there? Yes, I would say there's some good developments happening. So I'll share my screen, just quickly go through a few things because I'm sure you guys heard about Alpha. I think that's how you say it though. Some tokenized stocks and so on. So some announcements to do with that thing. And then that the NASDAQ or on-chain equity trading vision that they have. There's just a few things I'll try to touch upon just to bring those things in a complete picture. Okay, I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Good to
Oh,
go.
I see
Can
myself.
you see yourself?
Yeah.
That's my cue to go.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go. Now I see your document.
Yes. Yes. I hope nothing is. Oh, just to my notes.
I don't see
Okay.
your
So we had
passwords or any secrets, just so you know.
nothing. That's fine. My passwords are very easy. I'm sure it has the word Solana in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had the event, which is still going on. By the way, they might have a crazy announcement. I haven't checked the news feed so far, but we had two announcements that were more, you could say, stock related. One was by Kraken and Back Finance to again tokenize over 50 US stocks and ETFs as SPL tokens, which is the ERC20. If you're more
Yep.
familiar with Ethereum, also have those. So that seems pretty nice. Then you also have, I think this is also something more recent, R3 and Solana partnership again at the conference, they want to migrate over 10 billion of regular, real world assets, including stocks and bonds. And this was something I think in May, or maybe starting of May, Super State's opening bell and soul size. So this is a Canadian stock though that they also want to, tokenize and bring on chain. So
Oh,
these
is
three
that
are
like MicroStrategy? MicroStrategy?
no. So Superstate is the company. Opening Bell is the platform, and Soul Strategies would be the first, you could say, pilot tokenized fund. Oh, sorry,
Oh, it's a
tokenized equity
fund.
on Solana.
It's
No, so
okay.
sorry, it's an equity. So they're trading
Equity.
on the. So they have two tickers. They're also on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and I think they're also somewhere in the States. So they have two. So the one in Canada is the one they want to tokenize, or at least try to
Okay.
tokenize. So all three of them are still announced or pre-launched. So none of them are actually active yet. As of now, if you look at the asset class for Solana's real world assets, they have no public equities on Solana. So that's something that would be pretty interesting to see this year. They probably get massive, traction to bring these guys on Solana and then seeing how well they perform. Ethereum's, I think, number one. They're way ahead. Solana is like still nothing there. But yeah, we have some good announcements so far though, and we'll have more players with the coming weeks and months also joining this bandwagon and trying to maybe be the first public equity on Solana though. So that's one thing. You guys have probably heard about Dominic. Should I jump on Alphanglow? That'd be the.
I'll just say one thing quickly. I don't know how much of this is legal. I don't think
Ooh.
it's legal to do many things in blockchains that are going on, such as tokenizing things, even real estate. Real estate maybe can be legal, but tokenizing equities and ETFs, it is occurring. And we talked about Kraken, but I'm not sure if there's a congressional regulation that has passed or SEC approval. So the process may be slow and then speed up once it becomes fully legalized in writing.
So for
Oh, it says that SEC registered. Okay.
yes, so this one is waiting for pending approvals though. I'm sure
That's
those guys
pending.
will have a similar flow though. So we'll have SEC in the playground as well. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure.
Otherwise, then you're right that it does open another can of worms to have these tokenized assets on chain without any proper regulatory oversight. So yeah, you're right.
Oh,
SEC
framework.
will
Yeah,
step in.
framework.
They will step in for sure. Okay. Yeah, that's the quiz side. So now just want to maybe go back a bit though. We also had an announcement for AlphaGo Glow as well though. So I want to talk a bit broadly about layer one. So every layer one can be broken down into, again, broadly speaking, into three components though. You have the consensus part of it though, which is pretty much how quickly do you agree on something on chain as far as data goes. Then you have execution, how fast you execute that data. And the third one, which kind of does go in line with consensus, is finality. How fast can you make that data irreversible, which is the selling point of blockchains, when things just go in block and they can no longer be reversed or broken apart again. So we have those three parts. So Alpha and Glow is more of a change, protocol level change for Solana for its consensus and also finality. So I'll just kind of talk on those two things here. Yep. Sorry,
I saw you skip Alpenglow. I wasn't sure if you want to talk about it. Oh, you have it here again. Okay.
Yeah, I have AlphaGo. So at the moment, though, we have Solana is using something called BFT Tower, or maybe it's called Tower BFT. I'm sorry, I keep on going back and forth. So
Yeah,
we have BFT
Byzantine
Tower.
fault tolerance. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think in simple forms is though, if you are someone who is a validator though, and so either can be a leader or validator in Solana though. So if you're a leader, then you're producing blocks, passing it to the whole network. Though if you're a validator, then you're casting your votes to accept those blocks. So if you're in a better position though, and you're voting on blocks though, so make sure everything on the blockchain stays canonical, which means the longest running chain has to be supported though. There not should be too many forks though. So people who are submitting their votes on chain, the more votes that they vote consecutively, it becomes hard for them to jump to a fork version of that chain though. So for us to for something to be called finalized on the Solana blockchain, we need to have at least, I think, 32 or 64 consecutive slots, which cannot be reversed anymore. That's kind of when you say it's been really baked in and you can't go back and reverse. So AlphaGo, if I can break in two parts though, the first one is water here, which
Yep.
means that instead of having those blocks finalized in 12 seconds or something, you're looking at milliseconds though. So a
Wow.
single block can be finalized way faster though. So
So
you're
really,
looking at
really
way
fast.
really fast. Hopefully, when this thing does come out in mainnet, does actually achieve those things. But yeah,
Is
that's the
that
thing.
the
So
one that says 150 milliseconds? Oh, that's something else. That's voter.
no.
Oh, that
So
is
yeah,
voter. Yeah, I
that's
see
yeah,
below. It says
exactly
150.
that's the
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Exactly. So if we have majority stake votes, 80% plus, so we can just take that entire block and just call it finalized. So normally, as of now, though, we're looking at 32 blocks which have supermajority vote, which is 66% more consecutive blocks being built. So the more blocks you build, the previous blocks get stronger, if that makes sense. So you need more stronger blocks. You can call them attestations, how they do in Ethereum, though. And then the previous blocks cannot be reversed anymore. So something being confirmed in Solana and something being finalized are two different things. So fine, you can get things confirmed very fast. That's under 4 milliseconds, because Solana is very fast when it's throughput though. But for it to be finalized, to be not reversed anymore, the chance of that going away, that is what we call finalization. That needs still 12 to 15 seconds, give or take. So the war part of AlphaGo's consensus change that will actually replace the current BFT tower will make that shift from 10, 12 seconds, what we call it though, to milliseconds. So that's a huge jump in finalization though. The second part is rotor. So once everyone finds a block though, how fast can you get that information past through the entire network, right? So at the moment they have Turbine, and what happens though, you have the leader that executes the whole block, and then also passes that in straights to I think it's called Turbine, to the rest of the writers to like eat it up and save it on their side though. So Aurora, what it does is though, it will make that thing, you could call it less latency, much faster though. So with rotor consensus though, you'll have the execution and the part where it comes to passing that information to the entire network more modular. So you'll have relay nodes that will pick up the slack of passing it to the whole network, and you'll have the leader just executing the blocks. So instead of leader doing both, like, hey, I'm going to complete the entire block and also simultaneously pass it to the network, we can break them down into two portions. You'll have relay nodes, which will be passing it to the whole network, and you'll have the leader just executing blocks. So again, you'll have latency fast. So again, in a nutshell, though, Bora means how fast can you make blocks finalize? Cannot be reversed. Super fast, milliseconds. That's a very big upgrade. Rotor means how fast can the network completely have that old information to be one state, if that makes sense. So
Okay. So
again,
TLDR, the too long did
yes,
listen is that it just makes it faster.
exactly. So Bora again in simple forms is faster with decision making, and Rotor is faster with delivery system to the whole network, if that's a better
Okay.
way to put it on.
You have anything else over here?
Yes. So yeah, I think cover this part though. For fire answers, so I just want to talk about something else. So Solana, and I think this is a very nice quote I found from Anza. So Anza is a research entity for Solana though. I think they were called Solana Labs, and then Solana Labs had half of their team,
Oh, really?
stand Anza. So it's like
Oh,
I
really?
think it's like a spin-off or something
Oh, yeah, I never
from
heard of them.
Solana.
Okay, that's good to know.
Oh, they're pretty cool. These are the guys who are actually developing Alpha.
Okay, good
It's
to
Anza.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty.
So
So they
that's the
also have
jump crypto for for Alpenglow. The
Sorry.
Jump Crypto, because Jump Crypto is working on Fire Dancer, and these guys are working on Alpenglow. Oh, gotcha.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But again, they also do share information back and forth
Yeah.
because they have the same vision. So Anza, or you can say Solana's founder, co-founders, all had this vision of, hey, let's get NASDAQ decentralized or things on chain. That's always been their thing. So one more thing that they would do, so of course, having things like AlphaGo, protocol consensus being much improved, super cool, super fast block progression, latency, that's amazing. Fire answer is more on the execution side. So you can have more execution, more transactions executed faster. So that's more on the list. So if you add them both together, I think they're also being worked side by side. I think they'll both be launched end of the year. Fire answer probably would be
Yes.
announced. Breakpoint and AlphaGo again being consensus change is good. So I guess they both work back and forth. You
So the
can
end of the year, basically.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, I mean, you can still choose Jito as a client. So again, Fire Answer is a new client though. I think that should be somewhere in my notes here.
Yeah, so that's for the validators, basically.
Exactly. So yeah. So here, so for Fire Answer though, you can craft more transactions in a block. So you have faster blocks though. So it's more like this. Fire Answer will help you have more transactions in a block. Then Water, the consensus from AlphaGo, how fast do you have finality for those blocks? And then Rotor, how fast can you propagate that to the entire network? So A, B, C, boom. Overall, things become very fast, if that makes sense. Now I'll just show something. So at the moment, again, if we compare fine with all these amazing upgrades, though, where would Solana still sit compared to something like Nasdaq? So we still have a lot of gaps to fill. Solana in its current state does 4 milliseconds, though it's still 8,000 times slower than the Nasdaq.
And I think, let me just add something. I think the number one reason is because it's decentralized. The more centralized something is, the faster it tends to be.
Exactly. So at the moment, though, so you're right, though. So at the moment, we have a single leader schedule. So that one leader, when it's chosen and it's in the leader schedule, though, I mean, it's pre-selected leaders, though, that one leader has to complete the whole block, and there are different, what's the word, types of transactions that could be DeFi related to NFTs, so on and so forth. So it's a lot of compute power on the one leader, though. Now, Sana also has a vision to introduce, I think I should look more into like when this will be updated though. So I have multi-leader in the execution part though. So you can have, let's say, one slot. You can have leader A doing all tech stuff, leader B doing NFT, leader C doing DeFi protocols. So one block can have a multiple leader approach to get things even faster. That should push transactions per second way above what we currently have. So that'll be something interesting to see though. So that with Fire Answer, with the consensus change, and God knows what else is happening in Solana this year, those things should, again, they're going for that throughput, raw throughput, being up to speed, just to go hand in hand with the systems developed by places like NASDAQ and stuff. So, block confirmation. Yeah, so just to again explain a bit more, at the moment we have a single leader that does execute. Once it's done, it does pass to all the other vendors so they can have up-to-date accounts of, Solana is account-based, but yeah, just have all the data across the network to be the same. Once we introduce more leaders, though, that should speed up things even more. And, oops, we don't need, okay, I think I already covered this part, though. If you want to compare Jito and wait, do I still have you, Dominic, right?
I'm listening. Yeah. What was that?
Yeah, because nothing. You went a bit quiet. I thought maybe I lost you.
I was just
So, yeah,
listening to you. I'm paying attention.
I like that. So again, if you take Jito, which does, I think this probably does 90% of the client preference these days is Jito, just because it gives you MEV option as well. So if you go back and forth, I think the clients for this client for final would be people who are looking for more raw throughput. It does have potential for MEV. I don't know how much of that will be worked upon, but if you look at just, again, this is also not fully correct, it's more theoretical though, but they want to maybe be more. So again, they're going for more speed just to maybe compete with those trading firms out there, just this raw throughput. So it'll be interesting to see when this is more available, how well received it would be to have file answer, and then elf and go, and then maybe somewhere in the future to have multi-leader approaches on as a blockchain. Yeah, those are all my points. Have any questions?
Yeah, just one thing. Oh, we're running out of time. I think we just have about a minute. So I just want to put it all together. To be honest with you, I'm not a detailed guy and I don't understand a lot of stuff. What I do understand is holistically overviews of blockchains. And what I could put together holistically is that if you combine Alpenglow and Fire Dancer, it's going to be a much better chain, a much faster chain. And it's also going to reduce some of the disadvantages of it being a monolithic chain. Because it's monolithic, it doesn't
Yes.
have the advantages of a modular chain, which means
Yes.
sharding and things like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of good things to come by December. And I want to talk more about Solana next week because I have a whole list of things here, pros and
We can
cons.
go back.
Well, nice talking to you this week, and I hope to do this again real soon. And thanks for explaining to us about Solana.
I, I hope it was a good explanation, guys. In the comment section, write any questions. Happy to go back and forth.
I think we're going to have to talk about this again next week. Well, thank you all, and thanks for
Yeah.
listening. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Dominic. See you. Have a good
Anytime,
Friday.
my friend. Anytime.